Denver shows up in Minnesota just like I hoped and expected that they would. And they showed up like I expected they would in, game one at home. But I guess it took them 2 ass beatings to show up. And they looked more sharp. They were better. Jamal Murray played despite obviously a controversial. Well, he should have been suspended for this game, in my opinion. Make of it what you will. And he finally showed up in the playoffs. He had his best game of the series. 24 points, was sensational offensively in the first half. Uh, had a little more breathing time, so he was able to play at his own pace better and get to his favorite spots on the floor. And he was making some tough baskets, as he usually does in the playoffs. And that was huge for the Nuggets, obviously. And the referees, I thought early on, gave them more leverage. They were calling, I would say, it was a tighter whistle, which favored Denver because it gave them the ability to go to the free throw line, to slow down the pace, to not let the Timberwolves get into the transition, to not have transition back buckets against them. And the Timberwolves struggled in the half court offense today. And I thought after they got down 20, they also settled a little too much for the 3-pointers. And Denver just had everything going their way, right? They missed some layups, some threes went in and out, and it felt like the Timberwolves just didn't have their night today. And um, the slower pace with more whistles obviously favors Denver. Even though Minnesota's defense is still sensational in slower space, the tighter whistle doesn't help obviously. And they were calling fouls that they weren't calling in game 2. Make of that what you will. Pisses me off too, but that's the NBA, unfortunately and fortunately, I guess. And give the Nuggets credit for their screening. They did a much better job of sticking screens and making sure that those screens hit where it needs to and gives their guy more space. I guess that was the biggest difference. I didn't even notice how bad those screens were in the first 2 games, but they were really bad compared to especially today, where the screens obviously opened up the space for everyone, led to more open shots, led to more easier baskets. Even though I still felt like the Timberwolves contested, it was more comfortable for Denver. They just looked comfortable on the court for the first time this series. And a lot of it has to do with Jamal Murray looking like himself, Jokic. Even though he wasn't as aggressive as Michael Malone wanted early on, he still was more aggressive, got more to his spots, and was the most efficient we've seen in this series. So he had a huge bounce back game. Aaron Gordon was ready to lock and load from the 3-point line, which was huge for the Nuggets. He gave them a burst in the third quarter, and MPJ had his best game this series, and he was sensational. And the bench. Shout out Justin Holiday. I talked about it in game 2. I thought he was going to have to play, and he played today 19 minutes, gave them six points, and it was really good. Christian Brown was really good off the bench. So that's huge for Denver. They need at least some contribution. They shot lights out from the 3-point line, barely turned the ball over, especially early on. So they finally got off to a great start, which is huge. And the Timberwolves were just not able to respond. Ant-Man wasn't as aggressive and assertive early on, in my opinion. Jaden McDaniels was overzealous with his foul calls. And they were settling for 3-pointers after a while. They got frustrated with the foul calls, and everything just went Denver's way. And I also thought I really liked the backdoors that Denver executed. I thought they were able to, uh, use the threat of or use Minnesota's defense against them with some of the backdoor cuts and some of the layups they got in this game, especially in the first half. Yeah, and it was a blowout. So I'm hoping we get a closer game in game 4. But I think this could go. I think this series could easily go, Denver in 6. But I don't know. I have a feeling that this will go 7. And I'm not sure if Minnesota wins in Denver game 7. But I think prior to game 7, it will always be the FA team winning. But that's just my bold prediction. I don't know. I just have to vibe about this series. And I guess we'll see what happens. As always, I'll be here to cover it. OKC Dallas, 5 hours from now. I'll cover it tomorrow. And as always, be kind to yourself and to others. And stand on your morals. Hey, preach love. Chase your dreams no matter how young or old. And I'll catch you all then. Yeah, love, baby.